is by taking your right leg out in front. You can take your left foot in kind of like a half butterfly position. From here, go ahead and take your hands on either side, on the kind of like you're pushing one palm to the wrist, and just start to gently bow forward. Just feeling that connection here. Noticing how the back of the hamstring on the right side, hamstrings are getting a little bit more awareness. You might find a little bit of a rhythmic breath, kind of inhale and inhale and so forth. Good, do that for another 10 seconds or so. Feeling the jati, feeling that rhythmic motion, that childlike divine spirit. And then start to fold over that right leg as if you were coming into that half butterfly position. Let your body round. You'll be here for about a minute or so. This is more intended as a softer, kind of gentle hatha in this idea, but you can make it more yin if you like to. I just won't be holding it for the length of a yin posture. And take one more breath here, filling up all sides of your torso, that coherence breath. If you would like more time and you're not ready to roll up, you can carefully take the time to be longer, or equally mindfully come on back up. You can kind of wobble and shake that leg out. Okay. And from here, point and flex through your right foot, forward and back, plantar and dorsal flexion. As you find that plantar and dorsal flexion, you can again go side to side. So we're just waking up rotation, flexion, extension. You can even lift your right leg up a little bit and give it a little bit of a rock, a little bit of seesaw, kind of like a little dip and up, kind of like a half circle. Maybe give a little bit more of a circle. Nice. Okay, and then release. You can take your hands on either side of your right thigh and you can give it a little massage, really getting into the fascia, letting the gliding of the fascial tissues hydrate over another. So when it comes to our bones and joints, our muscles, we actually are not lengthening them. We are hydrating them. This is more in the Bao Tensegrity lineage of movement and fascia science. And by that, we also find an AUX, an auxetic relationship with that. So when we apply force to something or pressure, it causes everything around it to move, like a chain reaction. So like oil and water, how they resist, if you push down, it moves around. So that's what we're doing in any single movement or stillness, regardless if it's yoga, movement, Pilates, training, doesn't matter, okay? Let's switch sides. Take your right foot into your left thigh. And take your hands on each other and just start to go forward a bit. Treating it completely as a new side. And so Jati, J-A-T-H-I, Jati. And again, I learned some of these techniques from emotional resiliency training under the School of Arkaya Yoga, Maitreya Yoga Charini. If you are curious to learn more about them, I can give you the information later. A couple more of these, maybe a couple of swallowed breaths outside. And then find a sense of grounding and settling here. You're welcome to prop your forehead and your face with props as well. Started the practice, which in some ways we are. And yeah, so if you're used to a 45, 50, 60-minute class, you can do a lot in those lengths of practices. It's just a little bit more difficult to not have it feel rushed or feel like you're not skipping things that your body really needs and your nervous system craves. We'll be here for a couple more moments. Take your time to carefully roll on up to your seat. And then we'll take the left leg out front, the right leg can chill out. You can start to wobble, point and flex, really move with that left foot. Again, you might pick up your left leg. I didn't actually show it with the hands. It's kind of nice. You can just like pick up your left thigh with your hands and rotate. You can go around and kind of like a little loop-to-loop or a half circle and just kind of cradle that femur bone around the acetabulum, the opening around the hip crest. And with your skeletal variation, which I'll talk about in the yin context, our bones are spirals and shaped completely differently in length, insertion, the finishing of the attachment of the head, especially the arms and the legs. And so with that being said, you kind of get this ability to identify where you may feel compression at the bones knocking, which will never change and eventually will cause chronic injury. And sometimes, especially if you're hypermobile, you might not even necessarily need yin, you need more restoratives where it's supported and you're not going into the hypermobility of your fascia already. So for folks that might have EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or that might have any connective tissue, I don't like saying disorder, but connective tissue health concerns like that. Yin yoga doesn't mean it's bad for you. What I'm saying is you want to be very mindful of how you're approaching your body in that way, because it might not actually respond to that same stress if you're more on the tighter side or just have more of a standard, a regulated, a neutral fascial density, for whatever you'd call it. Okay, so next one is a little bit fun. You can take your right hand and your left shin on your knee and just start the cradle, a little bit bigger of a movement with the hips. You can also take your ankle, kind of like you're doing a happy baby. You might take the outside of the foot or take the peace finger on the big toe and continue that idea of action and movement. And then similar to what we did when we had our heart hug, you can take an inhale, and so you'll look towards your right knee. It's okay if it's not in the same order. Good, continue. I just want to check in about internal temperature. Are people feeling really warm? Are they feeling cold? How are you feeling? Yeah? I'm feeling warm too. So I'm gonna put on the purifier there, I think, as a start. Do you think that should help? Or
like if you want, we can just turn the AC, but
okay.
Increase the temperature so it's not too cold.
Okay, sure. Keep doing this. Don't do it between, wait until we're done. Yeah. Okay. All right. And now from here, let that relax. Just notice. So that gentle rhythmic movement can really bring a lot of tissue and blood flow in ways we normally wouldn't. Because even if you think about like a physical asana practice where we're doing arm balances or doing the preparation of taking a leg over the shoulder, It's that kind of idea, but you don't really prep. You kind of yank it over and then boom, you're on your fingertips and you think you're enlightened, and if you are, that's fantastic. I support that. It's not really how I've identified with the idea though. Okay, let's find the second side. If you need something else in between, then do that first. Otherwise, find your version of that left leg cradling. Good. So when I say getting into the areas of the back body, I'm referring to the shoulders along the spine. I'm referring to the glutes and maybe the QLs on either side of your spine above your waist bone and not in the SI joint region. And then we'll find the front body and the limbs as well. Okay. So from here, I like personally having 2 blocks, one flat, one on its second height. We don't have chip foam blocks here, so otherwise I would recommend that too. From here, I like having a blanket in lieu of a chip foam block and having a little bit of height and a bit of a softer landing for the sitting bones, which can be quite helpful. Okay, so with that in mind, you can play with that. And then, as you recline, have all your other props, accoutrements within your reach. And start to lay down into that initial position here. If you would like to add that soft meditation kind of square pad underneath the back of your head, or if you brought something that might match the curve of your neck, or I can use one of your blankets and make a little thin sushi roll for underneath your neck. This is a wonderful inquiry to play with. While you're here, take the first minute just to arrive, finding that coherence breath. Noticing how that translates for you in your body. Because knowing that you are always changing. The nervous system is constantly changing in its sensory overload or under stimulation, with that being said too, over or under stimulation. From here, you'll locate your balls, your myofascial spiky balls. Press your feet into the ground and lift your hips off so you can place the balls on the kind of outer upper regions of your glutes. Once you find that sweet spot, and again, if you brought your own myofascial release balls, as I stated in the opening, what you could bring if you like, you can add those to it as well, especially if you have brought something firmer like a lacrosse ball, a rad roller, a massage tool, a tennis ball, a golf ball. Hopefully not a golf ball, but something like that. I don't know, a human rubber fist, in the sense that they can get right into the knuckles. I find that actually can be quite helpful. That might not have been the best metaphor, but you know what? YOLO. Safe space. Anyway, you can start to rock and kind of tip your knees from side to side like you're kind of doing a little windshield wiper. So you're receiving a little bit of pressure in and around the glute maximus, all right? The glutes, we have 3 main layers, the maximus being on the outside, upper superficial, the minimus being below it, and the minor being further below that, which can get pretty dicey. We're not gonna go that deep. Sure, if I had wooden dowlings and if I had like golf balls, we could do that. But I think you'll be relieved that we don't. Maybe next time. Unless if that means you don't sign up, then we won't use it. From here, you can cross your right outer edge of your foot on top of your left thigh for a figure 4 shape. And that will allow the ball to get a little bit more oomph, a little bit more chutzpah into, thank you for laughing. You can get that chutzpah into the, oh yeah, Do you not feel that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, thank God. Because I've been in surgery, I had surgery, which wasn't super invasive, it was a laparoscopy, but still, I was like, oh wow, I can't like flex my abdomen, I can't do gentle back bend, I can't do a twist. Now it's like, oh, I can now. Ooh, this is nice. It's like you don't know what you have until you lose it, and then, but every day, right? It's like, oh my God, where's my phone? Where'd it go? It's in your hand, human being. It's in your hand. Where's my watch? It's on your wrist. It's on your finger. Find the left foot over top of the right thigh. You can again really lean into that weight if you like. Yeah. And so, one of the reasons this type of work, yin, restorative, massage, Reiki, non-physical posture work, energy work, has been so powerful for me as a student and as a human. The mental health and the neurodiversity for sure plays a part in that, although it's very individual to every single human. So this type of work might not be the same for me as it is for you or for anyone else, regardless of where they may be on or not even on a spectrum of any kind. But speaking from my experience, this type of soft, intentional, nurturing practice work has been almost like a remedy or a treatment. Not a cure, but a treatment to actually learning how to unmask from the neurodiversity. To still be who you always have been, but to actually let that go and to know that people are actually, yes, we can understand people can be mean or critical or have maybe a certain sense of discernment or skepticism. But I think more and more in at least Vancouver, in North America, in the West Coast, if not even more, with the pandemic and the research on mental health and neurodiversity and humanity, the world has really started to shift over the last 5 years. More than I would have thought. And so for those that might resonate with this directly or indirectly, or even from a distance, imagine if that kind of progression and inclusivity and awareness was around when we were in our childhood, whether if we were in the millennial era or on the cusp of Gen X to millennial, or Gen Z, which now is a lot. Gen Z's been pretty phenomenal, and Gen Alpha and Beta, now they've really got that resource. But if you might have been in the gifted school system in the 90s or 2000s, which was there, and it was, or the special ed programs or mini programs, at least there was that too. But if you think back to our parents' days, their parents' days, it wasn't really quite the same thing. So with yoga and meditation, mindfulness and awareness, neuroscience, there's been a ton of research proven that these types of practices on and off the mat and in living life truly reboot and restore your entire being. Go ahead and release from the glutes. Bring your soles of your feet together, or your knees can fall in the touch with your feet a bit wider. Your feet might be flat with the knees pointing up to the ceiling and tucked in towards you. Chaitanasana. Constructive rest pose. The knees might come in the touch with the feet wide as well. From here, you can go ahead and start to lean over to your left side and place your ball in the junction of not your tailbone and not your waist bone, not on your shoulder blade, but somewhere kind of in that ballpark. If you think of your tailbone, you think of your sacrum and your waist bone and your pelvis kind of all as a quadrant, you would be thinking about in side, the bottom right, the inner bottom right and inner bottom left of your spine. And if the two balls are too much, or they might be a little bit big, to be perfectly honest, for this type of movement or release, you can take one ball and just take a few breaths on either side and alternate. If you brought smaller size massage balls, then you might, like a peanut or two separate small rounds, then you might be able to get in there in a different way. So as you arrive there, or sorry, not there, as you arrive here, understanding the connectivity of how you feel with your breath, and as your breath massages in and around your fascia and the layers of tissue around your body, sending that hydration, that moisturization, right? You can not even move and just breathe into the pressure of the sensation of the spike. One reason why these spiky balls are really great, everybody, is because it allows the blood to not get stuck like a flat surface, like a ball without spikes. It just kind of compresses and the blood just gets compressed even though it moves around, like that auxetic movement. Whereas with a dryer ball or any nubby ball, it lets things breathe around, so you're not just stagnating that area that the pressure is being placed to. Now, if you would like to be here still, you can start to explore maybe lifting up onto your left toes, lifting your left heel, and so just applying kind of like that additional pressure, like you're lifting your heels off the ground and maybe walking, kind of like pointing and flexing one foot at a time. Maybe noticing if that brings a different sensation of pressure, because everything is connected from the soles of the feet up to the superficial back line of the body to the tip of the nose. That's our superficial back line. One of the anatomy trainings that we refer to of fascial composition, Dr. Thomas Myers is one of the leading humans behind that theory. So we have a back line, a front line, a spiral line, arm lines, and we also have a deep front line, which I'll speak to as we continue doing this massage release work. Okay. Start to bring this lower back release to a conclusion, whatever that might be. Returning either to your spine, or if you need to sit up and just kind of side bend or twist or whatever, then otherwise to stay reclined. It might be nice just to stay kind of in that slumber. Inhale. Okay. Take as much time as you'd like here. The next, as we work up the spine, what I will offer you, and you can see me from here, that you'll place, you kind of lean over and lift one of your shoulders off and place the ball, again, kind of like we did before on the lower back, on the inner lip of your scapula, but not on the shoulder blade, and also not along the vertebra of the spine, because we don't want to be pressing into the intervertebral discs or any of that business. We want to be right here. So you can do one, you can do both. If that doesn't serve you, you have injury or any kind of triggersome relationship with the shoulders and the heart, then you don't have to take that. If you would rather just take a supported back bend and reclining on your back, you can. the sake of trauma-informed cueing, I have posturing on your back. Start to find maybe a little bit more subtle movement in the shoulder girdle if you haven't already. That could mean like reaching an arm up and letting it fall back down. It could be taking an arm across the chest to the other side and then opening it up across like a wingspan. It could be taking little circles like figure eights, or you can make little any kind of creative movement. Just keep me in the loop of your body temperature as the nervous system will continue to unwind, especially in the last hour of this practice, which we are already starting to approach. So if that means you want to be covered but keep the cool, if you unanimously want to have the temperature change, we can do that too within reason. Okay. Release from the back of your neck and your head. Once we complete having the ball behind the neck, I'll transition you to being seated as a transition to being in tabletop on all fours. Okay. Get into those longer held yin postures, restorative postures, and yoga nidra into shavasana. So this is kind of like your guidance point. Again, take a bathroom break, grab water, do what you need, and come into your hands and your knees. And as you arrive in your hands and your knees, I like having a blanket padding the knees or even a full bolster underneath. I find this quite lovely. Okay. You can then also take your blocks underneath your palms. So by having the blocks underneath your palms, everybody, flat, it gives you the ability to find a kind of a framework for your fingertips on either side of the blocks, and the middle three and towards the front. A lot of time we tend to flatten the arches flat and we lose the curvature, or the hasta bandha in Ashtanga, we lose the articulation of our entire hand. If our hands were flat, we wouldn't be able to do anything dexterous. We wouldn't be able to actually use them for what we need them for, right? So with that in mind, you can use the blocks and curl your fingertips slightly forward and feel the domes of the hands lift as if you're cupping like a pool ball, maybe. Now from here, start to find some gentle free-form movement here in a tabletop position. Completely choice-based, trauma-informed, feeling your way around what works for you. So that means flexion, extension, rotation, circumduction, meaning like moving the arm and the leg around and the ball and socket and really just moving around joint. It means opening up the arm, threading it through. It means stepping a foot forward into like a lunge and kind of taking some half rocks of splits, kind of like we did on our seat in the jati. Not really the same, but that kind of idea. Feeling, it's kind of a fun word. I like this kind of feel the viscosity of your fascia. Feel the springiness, feel the pliability, the fluidity of your movements. Yeah. All right. And then from here, bring your knees as wide as your bolster. And then you can, if it's too much, you can come bring your blanket or take your knees just on your mat and find yourself into an elevated kind of child's pose. You can always pad the space between your sits bones and your heels with another bolster as well while you're in this, making it a bit more supported. And you can also put a block of some kind under your forehead, which is quite nice. You're rocking the forehead to side to side. And coming back to neutral, letting that pineal gland, the center of the forehead roughly between the brow points, settle. So you can consider this your first kind of restorative / yin posture. If it was more restorative, it would have no strain or kind of stress. So this is still maybe not a traditional yin child's pose, but it is getting a bit of deeper release and fascia hydration in the inner thighs. At this point, I'm going to start to provide some hands-on assists, and as I mentioned, I will verbally or energetically, auditorily let you know I'm near your space. You can take your hands-on token and remove it and under your mat, or you can just give me a wave saying you're okay, thank you. I mean, you can throw a block at me or one of the soft balls at me if you want, but I do have liability insurance and I do need to keep my job, especially at what I'm trying to do with my life now. So I would recommend choosing your discernment, being aware of that. Take an inhale through your nose. Exhaling through your mouth. Allowing gravity, your breath, I know that what I'm providing you is a lot. It's a lot of nothing in a way, but it's a lot. Okay, so if you're not used to this kind of work, yin, restorative, nidra, myofascial release, pranayama, extended meditation, hands-on, yada yada, it's understandable if your brain and your mind, your systems, your body might be processing a lot, whether if it's through and during or certainly after. Okay, so from here, we just did a nice kind of rounded kind of flexion. So what I'd like to offer you is a more of a back bend. We'll do a restorative back bend anyway, but for a yin-ish back bend, you can find your way into a melting heart position, extended puppy. It could be something along the lines of patting your knees and having your forehead dip down towards your bolster with your toes tucked. So helping to get into the arm lines, into the heart space. If it's brand new, then that's great. In yin yoga and restorative yoga, people don't understand the differences between them unless if they've done the work and they've been to classes. And even then they might, like how they say yoga and Pilates, it's the same thing. No, it's not. It's completely different, right? So, in yin yoga, you're holding some tension and healthy stress, or EU stress in the body, positive stress, to provide hydration to your connective tissues, which are composite of your bones, ligaments, tendons, and joints. Fascia runs through a lot of our body, and our bodies are basically instead of bones and joints in that way and like connected like a skeleton, though that's also part of a way of looking at it. We have all these bags and sacks segmented of fascia that almost kind of chain together with that idea of auxetic or biotensegral movement. Whereas in a restorative yoga class, you can kind of look at like yin being the power yoga, the yang to the yin, I guess. But restorative is the yin to the yang, if you were to put it on a bar graph or like a spectrum, a sliding spectrum. Same thing if you go to some studios, you see flow or power yoga. They are different, even though they can be taught pretty much identical. Power tends to be slower, longer held, sometimes heated artificially, sometimes not. Maybe it's more hatha, long held, but then fluid transitions like a vinyasa. And working towards those more advanced, challenging, weight bearing, inverting, arm balancing, and so forth. Whereas flow could be very soft and gentle and fluid, holding things for less time, almost like you're rhythmically dancing with your breath like a symphony orchestra. And then hatha, like active hatha, gentle hatha, those are different too. Not for the sake of marketing and media, but they are different. The intentions are different, although they can blur together very, very easily if you want them to. So then hatha would be kind of the yang of the yin, and gentle hatha would kind of be more of the yin of the yang. And you can kind of think of this if you think of gentle hatha. It can be done with a lot of yin and restorative postures and influences, but with some dynamic therapeutic movement, similar to what we've been doing in the practice so far, right? So all that to say, it's just to give you an understanding of how yoga has developed in the last hundreds of years, and how it's also translated to a westernized business or brand, a product that you can distill and market to the general public in bite-sized periods of time, where you might feel fitness benefits, you may feel physical benefits, and hopefully if more than that. And then meditation and yoga nidra, more and more subtle body. And then from that subtle body, as I mentioned in the beginning, getting through the chakras, the koshas, the 5 sheaths, which I'll talk about near the end of the practice, and then the kleshas, the 5 poisons of humanity that pull us further away from feeling whole or complete. You are in a brave, trauma-informed, choice-based, self-inquiry-based space to purge, to feel, to listen, to heal. Honoring your true identity within you, the core of who you are. Knowing that one thing I've been learning over time from my training is that whatever questions you may have that you look outside or inside yourself, chances are you have the answers for those already, even if it may not fully seem like it at the moment. But if you sit with it, you might not be able to articulate in words. Maybe you might not even be able to know what you're feeling. As someone who is autistic, ADHD, nonverbal learning disability, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and all those fun little terms, which are identifiers, not labels or handicaps by any means. I say those with empowerment, and I choose to identify as such. The ability to have that added layer of how to identify extreme emotion in sense of stress, both eustress or maybe more traumatic stress. It's also referred to in a way of alexithymia, which is not knowing how to identify what you're feeling in the moment, and therefore sometimes it can be hard to regulate your emotions. So if you notice you find yourself in fight or flight, freeze or submit, or fawn, psychological responses psychologically, sometimes, whether if you have alexithymia or not, it can be easy to feel frozen. It can be easy to not know what you're thinking until you've come off the response of the cycle. And even then, maybe you may not be so sure unless if you have a therapist and you work through those types of experiences somatically and beyond that. And so we work with that directly and indirectly in these long held postures, in yin and restorative. And it can be very cathartic, but also very powerful. It's important to identify where you are in that, to know that you are perfect, beautiful as the way you are. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. So you'll sit up on the front of your blanket or bolster. Place a second bolster underneath your knees or calves. Because we have the gift of multiple blankets, and these Mexican blankets are really porous and easy to kind of adapt. Fold one up, so this way you can put a blanket underneath your feet, the undersides of your feet, or even kind of bundle yourself up like a little kind of a sushi roll. Not really the best ingredients for a sushi roll, but you know what I mean. And then you can take the third bolster, give it a little karate chop. I think you're holding a teddy bear. And give yourself a hug. You can use your second or third blanket if you, no, 2 blankets, yeah. So you can use your other blanket and just hunker yourself in. So in a restorative context, in yin yoga, you're holding postures sometimes for 20 minutes if you really are supported, like if you really want to do like hardcore yin. But traditionally in yin classes, you're holding postures from 2 to 5, max 10 minutes, and that would still be with like a bolster, at least if you're doing it for 7 to 10 minutes. Whereas in restorative yoga, traditional restorative yoga, you are you can still do restorative postures for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, no problem. And I'm continuing to remind myself that that's actually totally kosher. However, in the way that I was taught and by learning from Judith Lassiter's books and some other teachers in writing and in person, I have personally found it the most beneficial to be in restorative postures for anywhere from minimum 10 minutes, all the way up to 2 hours or an hour, if you really wanted to settle into it. With the natural relaxation response in the parasympathetic nervous system, our human growth hormone, this provides the body and the nervous system enough time to really transcend into lower frequency brainwaves. So theta, delta waves, as opposed to alpha, beta, gamma. And by providing that sense of state in the brain, then the body also starts to send a signal that it's safe to let go, which could also instill cooling in the bloodstream and body temperature. Can really release a lot of trauma and even help to induce sleep. I've had people do restorative for a couple times in the past, and they said they had no insomnia after putting their legs up the wall and being relaxed for their nervous system. In restorative, when I was 18, 19, 20, it was one of the only practices that I felt safe enough to cry in public and actually heal from my grief and trauma of losing a sibling, of losing my weight, from being obese, whatever other types of things we may be going through. And that's not a overshare or a plug, but what I'm trying to say and get across is for you to understand that this type of work has so many healing benefits in however it chooses for to serve you, or how you wish to serve it back. And it's important to identify that, how does that navigate? How does that come through?